The national debt is such a serious issue, and yet again, we are dealing with the consequences of raising the debt. You know, you look at it time and time again, governments do the exact same thing, and that is spend more money than they have. Well, in today's episode, the first thing we'll talk about is the debt ceiling, why it's really important, and what has happened up until this point here, leading us to number 2, which is follow the money. Where is the money being spent today globally? What nations, what businesses and corporations are really benefiting from this major shift that's occurring? And number 3, the most important of all for everybody who sticks around, we're going to talk about civil unrest and how this all unfolds. I've got a very important video for you today. Let's begin. So let's start right here. America hit its debt limit, raising economic fears. This comes up periodically, and basically what it says is that the Congress has to allow more spending. If they do not, they run into these special circumstances, emergency takes place, the government has to decide, where do we cut back spending from? What do we do in this case here? They all convene and they decide, well, you know, we don't want to spend it here, we don't want to spend it there, and it's this nonsense back and forth. And as long as it doesn't come near Christmas time when they all want to go home really fast, they can stretch it out for such a long period. Here we have my favorite and yours, Janet Yellen sends a letter to congressional leadership on the debt limit saying you must do what you can right now. We don't want to have this issue, and yet they do this over and over again. It's the same repeated pattern. In my opinion, it's nonsense. They're going to spend an unlimited amount of money. We know that the government is going to spend more than they have, and that it will devalue the currency over and over again. You look at the same thing in Europe. You look at it in Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the US, and everywhere else in between. They're all doing the same thing. It's the same pattern. Why? It's because each country cannot fall behind on the spiral downward as we see confetti's currency turn to confetti. Look here. I wanted to show you what it comes down to is, according to Goldman Sachs, Congress has until August and possibly as long as October to raise the debt limit. That's what they suggest. They basically break it down. Extraordinary measures, that's what they call it, likely exhausted by March. Tax payments make room under limit in April, and then it goes beyond that. So it really depends on how they want to do this, how long they want to stretch it out for and pretend like this is the World Wrestling Federation and they go behind the scenes and now are, you know, having a party, and then they just tell you that everything is not so good on the surface. We know the truth, okay? Let's be honest. As a result, like I said, you can see the currency fluctuating, okay, against its peers. In this case, the dollar touches 7-month low as Fed rate rise expectations slide. This is important because we had seen over the last few months, everybody was piling onto the dollar. This was an excellent trade. The dollar was strengthening. All other currencies were weakening against it. But when we measure this against what's more important than comparing, let's say, the yen to the US dollar or any other currency, it's important to look at real goods. Because even though you're seeing inflation rates as in the number that they give us, inflation rates coming down, even the top guy at Unilever, I can't remember if it was the president or CEO, he said, this is Unilever, one of the biggest companies in the world, saying that prices are still going to go up. You better expect that. So that's what they're telling you. They are telling you exactly what's going on. And if we're not paying attention, we're going to be sideswiped by it. That leads me into the next point. You have what occurs when we follow the money. And I want to show you this. Kissinger sheds resistance to Ukraine joining NATO. Look, we got to do this. We just have to have a next World War III going on. I mean, that's really what this would entail. And I think it's important to show us that when they're meeting at Davos, what are they signaling that will occur? Just like Bilderberg meetings, Davos, same situation that they're telling you. They're telling you future policies that will be decided within our governments. No, these are not government officials, but they are going to have those policies within our government, so we got to pay attention. So war is absolutely on the table, and I would say widespread war, World War III type war. I'm hoping that it's not the situation and that's not the base case scenario, but it looks ever more likely as we see with Taiwan, China, who knows, could be anywhere. But where is this money? Where is all individuals, investment banks, and the multimillionaires and billionaires? Where are they putting their money? Well, let me show you something. Gulf funds with $3 trillion become the world's bankers. Broken down further in the next article, you will see Middle East sovereign funds spent almost $89 billion globally last year, with deal makers using their wealth to diversify their economies and win geopolitical influence. This is something I've been talking about for many, many years. Watch the shift, look at it's happening already. I even talked about it in my book, talking about China, how they're going to see more wealth moving in there. And that was literally over a decade ago when I published that. So here we are today. I thought it was interesting what they pointed out next. When Credit Suisse, Sam Bankman-Fried, and Asia's richest men were hunting for funds in recent months, they all turned to the same place, the Middle East. And they basically talk about how these countries have literally trillions of dollars that they want to spend. And you look at what Saudi Arabia has been doing, getting Ronaldo on board. Potentially, I even heard they want Messi on board, bringing them over. They're attracting new things that weren't there a decade ago. They're building that up. It's not just Dubai. There's others as well, like Saudi, that are trying to basically attain more wealth, go away from the oil income, and go in a different direction. So this is very important to see where the money is going to and from. Let me show you this. Dubai continues to benefit from crisis as the Russian-Ukraine war goes on, and you will look at that. It was approximately a year ago now. Time flies. And you could see that property transactions in Dubai year-to-date hit a record high by the end of 2022, surpassing previous records reached over the same period of 2009, where there was chaos, really, when you look at it. And what happened with Dubai, places were being built for no reason, and then, hey, they sat empty for many years. But now things have changed, especially in the last year. Russian nationals have become the largest buying group of real estate in Dubai since the war in Ukraine, driving sales to new record highs. Incredible to see how much money has moved into this one little place. Dubai's annual real estate transactions crossed the milestone of $500 billion dirhams, looking at this being the first time in 2022. They're growing, the money is moving in, and of course, a lot of the world sees this as a hub. You compare where it is geographically, comparing Asia to Europe, kind of linking that, and even Africa in the same sense. Algeria looks forward to joining the BRICS in 2023. According to the president, we are watching the BRICS nations growing in strength, growing in what they want to pursue. Of course, it will take a long time, but suddenly the BRICS is more than just a few countries. It looks like this will grow. One of those countries being Saudi Arabia could be joining the BRICS. I think that would be massive. And of course, gotta watch because they intend on having their own reserve currency. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? And then just showing you in connection with that, global property market faces $175 billion debt spiral. All of this right now coming to a head because of what happened with debt increasing the interest rates. You know what occurs. That's all I'm trying to show you here. That's what I'm trying to highlight, that when you increase interest rates, everything changes. And suddenly what looked attractive before, that's not the case anymore. That's not the case. So then you have big problems, and I'll talk about that momentarily. The national debt rising has implications for the value of the US dollar and geopolitics because as the debt increases, it can lead to inflation and the potential for devaluation of the dollar. If investors lose confidence in the ability of the US government to manage its debt, they may reduce their investments in the country, leading to higher interest rates and further economic consequences. China is a significant holder of US debt and therefore has major influence over the value of the US dollar. If China were to continue to reduce its purchases of US debt as it has been doing, it could lead to a decrease in the value of the dollar and potentially negative effects on the US economy. If money is leaving Europe and to some degree the US and going to places like Dubai and the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, and China and South Africa, it could lead to a decrease in demand for the US dollar, which could also decrease its value. This is a major turning point and will continue to unfold in the coming years. When we have these major disruptions, you can see time and time again that there is civil unrest. Depending on food prices rising, maybe it's because people are having issues with one thing or another. They take to the streets. That's the inevitable fact of the situation. You look at in the UK, they're doing it. Nearly 500,000 UK workers set to mass strike demanding higher pay. They're going to take to the streets, civil unrest. People are going to be unhappy. They already are. It's simply a powder keg. You see what's happening in the case of France. It seems like every day, but here's the newest one. More than 1 million people have joined a day of protests and strikes according to France's Interior Ministry against plans to push back the age of retirement from 62 to 64. Some 80,000 protesters took to the streets of Paris and I mean, I've seen some of the videos, it's crazy, but this is what goes on. People are upset. And on my second book, if you had read it, I made something very clear. It says, soon the earth will rumble under the heels of the angry mobs. And you see this time and time again when things get too expensive, when things are, really sanctioned, when people do not have access to what they want. There's simple things in life, with simple things. Their food, their energy, their housing. When it becomes too expensive, they had enough. They take to the streets. And this is what's going on all around the world today. I have what you can find in my How To and Solutions playlist, How To and Solutions on my channel. You can check that out if you haven't read my books already. The How To and Solutions will give you some information. I've got other playlists in there that might be of value to you as well. I've got a lot of information here on the channel, and if you want to know everything each and every day, all you got to do is hit that subscribe down below. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.